Hello friends, today we are covering the topic of why are short-term rentals bad. Is there a dark side to short-term rentals? Or is it all sunshine and rainbows? Well, to be honest, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There are definitely some challenges that come with owning and operating short-term rentals, and it isn't always good. And by the end of this video, I am going to break down the other side of short-term rentals that sometimes aren't that pleasant. One of the goals in all of my videos is to be completely transparent with you when it comes to investing in real estate. And although I love short-term and vacation rentals, there can definitely be challenges that arise. And we've had our fair share. And I would like to dive into those challenges with you by first talking about what potential downsides exist, and then explain to you why those could be deal breakers. And finally, how to avoid the bad when it comes to short-term rentals. If you're ready, let's go. So what are the potential downsides to short-term rentals? Depending on where you buy your short-term rental, you could definitely run into regulation or future regulations that can change the entire scope of your investment strategy for your short-term rental and have a serious impact on you financially. With short-term rentals being a fairly new investment strategy, not even more than a decade old or a few decades old, there's many municipalities, HOAs, and neighborhoods that are still coming to grips with how to regulate short-term rentals. And they're trying to figure out how this all works with their permanent residents. For example, I just saw a post on Facebook with a short-term rental group that I'm a part of where a gentleman came and said, listen, I bought this triplex many years ago in Ouray, Colorado, and they've just come with regulations that limit and restrict the use of short-term rentals. What should I do? Man, what a painful way to buy an investment only to have maybe the financial implications shattered by rules and regulations. And I've actually heard that some places in Colorado that used to be pretty good short-term rental areas are actually cracking down currently on those areas. Now do your own research, but I did see this post from this individual and I really felt bad for them. And so these regulations can have a significant impact on him financially and even on the property value. Because if he bought it as an investment and the numbers showed that it was worth this, but now those numbers do not exist or significantly reduced, the property value could potentially go down. I've seen the same thing in Island Park, Idaho, where I own 2 vacation rentals. Now we're on the good side of it because we have lots of beds and baths, but they're starting to restrict how many people can stay in these short-term rentals at these cabins depending on bedroom and bathroom count, because it's having a significant impact on the sewer and septic systems in the area and the groundwater. But the short-term renters are definitely fighting back, the owners, and they're trying to get everything passed the right way. They haven't made any decisions yet, but there's definitely a battle going on. Another potential downside in the short-term rental arena could be saturation. There are areas where short-term rentals have exploded. Many people saw dollar signs flashing in their eyes of short-term rentals and jumped in with both feet, especially when interest rates were so low. For example, take the Smoky Mountains, for example, Pigeon Forge, Seaverville, Gatlinburg. I saw so many people dive in and buy short-term rentals in that area. I even had one under contract for a little while, but it ended up not going through. But I've seen recently posts on many of these Facebook groups that I'm a part of that talk about short-term rentals, and I'm in all sorts of short-term rental Facebook groups. I saw a lot of people recently that have said, hey, I have 0 bookings so far for the summer. What should I do? That's challenging because that's some of the best times there in the Smokies is visiting the national park, and so to not have any bookings. Now that's not everybody, and I've seen some people that say, I am doing fantastic. We've got all of our months filled. Now oversaturation just means that you have a lot of competition, and just like anything else when there's a lot of competition, you need to stand out and make yourself stand out, make your home stand out. Because if you stand out, you're going to beat the competition. But that's what oversaturation means, but it doesn't mean that it's still not a negative for the short-term rental business and industry. Another downside is with short-term rentals is inconsistent income. Because short-term rentals are utilized by people that are vacationing, you're going to have high seasons and low seasons. And it depends on when people are visiting the most, but there is going to be inconsistent income in certain areas. For example, we own the short-term rentals up in Island Park, Idaho, close to Yellowstone. The best time to visit Yellowstone is from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And so probably 60 to 70% of our income comes in those 3 to 4 months. We've had months with our cabin in Yellowstone. In July last year, we did $39,000 in revenue. That was awesome. We've also had a month in November where we've done like $1,000 in revenue, right? Outside of Thanksgiving. And so the months up there of end of October, first part of November, or even March and April are very slow months in that area. And with inconsistent revenue, the banks don't care if money's coming in or not. You've got to make your mortgage payment, and the bills don't care. You've still got to pay your bills. So being able to juggle that and smooth that money out throughout the year is really important. And the final downside that I'll mention when it comes to short-term rentals is it takes a lot lot more time to manage a short-term rental than say a long-term rental. Especially if you're self-managing, that is one thing that's going to take your time. And if time is not an asset that you have, then you might consider other real estate investments. But if you do have some time, and the more you do short-term rentals, the longer you own it, I feel like your time put into it definitely goes down. And it starts to operate more like a machine, especially if you get systems in place to govern that short-term rental. So looking at the potential downsides, could those be deal breakers for you? So there's definitely some questions that you should answer to determine if these things potentially make short-term rentals bad or create a downside for you. And is it worth it for you to jump into this investment strategy? Number one, what is your risk tolerance? As I mentioned before, there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to short-term rentals. There's potential regulations that could take place. And if you have a high risk tolerance, you might be more apt to take a risk on some of those things. And with a higher risk, sometimes there's higher returns. And so if that is worth it for you, that's something you have to determine. Really, it comes down to, are you worth taking the risk to get the higher return? Now, if you do your due diligence and a lot of research, you might avoid some of those higher risk areas, which I would highly recommend, but there's still risk involved more so than other real estate investment strategies. Number two, do you have the financial stability to weather the storm? There will be months that are slower than others. You might even have periods of time that it's really slow. But as I mentioned, the bills still need to be paid. The mortgages still need to be paid. The taxes, the insurance still needs to be paid. Can you weather that storm if you have a period of time where something could potentially go wrong? Or if another, heaven forbid, a type of COVID exists where people have to stay inside, is that going to put a damper on it? Are you going to be completely out of luck, completely out of money, and potentially have to sell your short-term rental at a discount? So those are some of the things you have to consider when looking at a short-term rental. Now, if you have the risk tolerance and the financial stability to weather some of those storms, short-term rentals can actually be a good thing rather than a bad thing. Finally, let's talk about a few things we can do to avoid some of the bad things that could potentially exist with short-term rentals. Number one, as I've mentioned this before, do your due diligence. If you can find a good realtor that understands the area, that is so important. Talking to them, understanding them, maybe talking to the city offices, maybe talking to the county offices. Join Facebook groups that are well established that understand the area. Get all the information you can to do your due diligence before jumping in. Number two, understand what is required when running a short-term rental. Because it takes significant time and energy to provide a world-class experience for your guests, you're going to have to take time in order to answer questions, to maybe have to put out some fires that maybe you did not expect. You're going to have to replace some things in the home that you weren't expecting to replace, like a water heater or a dryer, or replace some railing or fix a door. So there's going to be unexpected things that are happening when you own a short-term rental. The last thing that you can do to avoid the bad that comes along with short-term rentals is to have an optimistic, positive attitude. Now, I know that sounds Pollyanna, but I've found that any investment that you do, if you approach it with an optimistic, positive attitude, that goes a long way. I mean, obviously, you can never control what happens to you, but you can always control how you react to a situation. And I think that is so important in any type of investment that you do, especially when it comes to short-term rentals. Now, these are some things that I've seen to help you overcome the bad that come with short-term rentals, but I'd be interested in your feedback. What have you seen? What are some challenges, or what are some of the bad things you've seen with short-term rentals? Please comment below. I'd love to engage in a dialogue. And as always, just for stopping by and watching the video, I've got a free gift. It is a short-term rental calculator where you put in all the input, revenue, expenses. It spits out to you whether it's a good deal with all the data. It's what I've used for all my short-term rental investments and what I'm currently using to look at other ones. And just click on the link below. It's absolutely free, no strings attached, aaronsfreetraining.com. Click on that and enjoy that short-term rental calculator. And once again, thanks for stopping by.